Okay, so this was last Saturday's project that I'm pretty excited about. I've been going to do this for a long time, but regrettably life's often a little busier than you'd like it to be. What we've got here are 3 raised beds. Now this was an area out the back of that, obviously the veggie patches behind us. This was an area that I used to grow sweet potatoes, pumpkins, anything that kind of was rambling and potentially took too long, but also took up too much space in the veggie patch. Now, in particular, my sweet potatoes last year got away. They ended up, it was a bit like Day of the Triffids out here, so they were everywhere. So one of the reasons I wanted these 3 raised beds was, one, to have one full of sweet potatoes that I could contain, and that's what I've done over here. As I've built or filled everything up, I've actually put all the sweet potatoes in there, and they will come up probably in a month or so and fill that bed. They're a very rampant crop, so as they kind of hang over the side, I'll probably just run along with a pair of secateurs or even a whippersnipper. You can be quite harsh with sweet potatoes, but at least I'll have a nice little crop of them in there whenever they're required. The other one over here, I've just put a couple of pumpkin plants in. You can see they've just gone in quite recently, and the third one, which we're still to fill up and we'll have a bit of a talk about in a minute, is obviously the one I'm standing in. Now, one thing that I think is really good about these is that you can make these any size you want. You know, you could go half the size. It doesn't matter. You can make these to fit your space. The other thing that you could do that I reckon would be really great, if you don't have the space to build a veggie patch like behind me, you could actually set up 6 of these and use the same principle with a little movable chook pen on top, and it wouldn't be that hard to make another timber frame and some type of arch and protection for the chooks, and some type of little lift up movable cage that could sit on the top of each of these bays. And if you had 6 of them, then you could get the same principle going. The chooks could live for a month in each spot, and you then follow them and plant out each of the bays. So in my case, I'm using them for more rambling permanent crops, but I think if you were, you know, more a backyard gardener, they'd be pretty cool to run as an actual similar permaculture system that we've got behind us. Now, just before we get into filling this one up, we might just have a look at at how these go together. They're very straightforward. I might put a plan on the website eventually, but I think most people could probably make them without a plan, and I'll just talk you through how they go together. Okay, now let's just have a quick look at how these raised beds go together. Now, I've made them out of 2 products that are readily available, 2 recycled products. 4x2 or 100 by 50 hardwood and recycled corrugated iron. I actually personally love the mixture of these 2 products, so I think they look pretty horny as well as being practical. The structure is very simple. We have an end panel that's made up 2 legs and the rail. So the legs go past the rail screwed through. We then have a side panel that's made on exactly the same principle. Legs past the rail screwed through. That's got a 6-inch or 150mm bugle head screw holding that together. Obviously there's going to be a bit of pressure when all the soil's in here wanting to pop this apart, so you need some fairly good fixings holding that together. The end panel is then screwed with these 2 fixing screws. Again, they're a 100mm bugle head screw. That's screwed to the sides, and that's effectively the structure. Then, just for aesthetics, to make it look a bit nicer and also protect that top edge of the corrugated iron, we've then just run another frame of the same 4x2 hardwood round the top that's screwed and just finishes it off aesthetically. And so you can see, I mean, these 3 beds would have cost me probably $35 to build in fixings, because everything else was just recycled that I'd found. And I mean, you can buy a lot of these materials, so that's again why there's such a good little structure. Okay, so just quickly now, then on the inside of those frames, so end frame, side frame, top frame, we've then just screwed the corrugated iron. You can see that's just screwed with a roofing screw along there. The sides need to go slightly below the ground level. That stops them from pushing the bottom from bellying out too much when the soil goes in. Obviously, one of your sides you can make full length, and the other one you've got to cut a little bit shorter to make up for those corrugation spots. But again, look, all of that should be pretty easy to work out. You could probably set up one of these as a what they call a wicking garden bed, and that is you could put a builder's plastic liner up and actually make the bottom so that it held water, and then put gravel in the bottom and then grow your plants on top, if you were in an area where water was a real issue. So this is a very versatile structure, and in some ways it's kind of even a bit more exciting than the big veggie patch, because anyone can do this anywhere, and there's a lot of ways you could adapt this. So that's kind of how they're put together. In a minute we'll just run through filling one up and how you might use it once you've built it. Okay, now again, if you were using these as backyard veggie patches, one of the things I'd potentially do is, especially if you're going to build 5 or 6 of them, you may not have the time to do that straight away. So I'd just build them one at a time. Once you got one built, you could even run them as a compost heap until they're full, and then grow your plants in them. So we might just have a little chat about making compost. I'm going to actually fill this one. I'm going to put some compost in the bottom. I'm then going to fill it with some scrapings out of our other chook pen, and then lay some soil on top of that. And I'm going to grow a quick crop of spuds in here, or potatoes, I suppose I should call them. I'm going to grow a quick crop of potatoes in here before it certainly is my first crop along the way. So I thought we might just spend a couple of minutes just talking about composting. So look, with compost, a lot of people get very anal about making compost, about you've got to have this and you've got to have that, and then you've got to turn it and you've got to etc, etc. That's all fine, especially if you want to make compost very quickly. But at the end of the day, anything that is organic, so it can be, well, anything that will rot can break down and form compost. So again, I don't get too caught up about it. The biggest rule, I think, when you're making compost is you want to mix it up. The lasagna principle, a lot of people call it. So you want layers of different things. And in the bottom of this, where I'm going to put a bit of compost, that'll be so my potatoes, when they're growing, can feed off it. I'm just going to throw some different things in, and these are just a few bucketfuls of things I've collected from around the place this morning. Now, this first one, these are some pond weeds, so they'll be nice and full of goodies from out of the pond. So I've got a couple of buckets of them. They're going to go in first. All right, anything that might need a bit of breaking down, I would then throw maybe some manure. This is just horse manure. We'll throw that in. We've got here some just leaf waste, so we'll put that in. It's pretty important when you're making compost to keep a bit of dry material in there. That keeps air through it. One thing you probably don't want to put in is heaps and heaps of grass clippings, because they just end up being a bit of a soggy mess, but certainly no worries putting grass clippings in. Weeds, throw them down the bottom. Probably best if you can let them die off a bit. A lot of people say let them wilt. So if you've weeded, just throw them around for a couple of days until they're pretty dead, and then throw them in. So certainly no problems putting weeds in there. I'd be a little bit hesitant if they were really invasive weeds. I wouldn't put them in there, but you know, things like onion weed and oxalis and things like that, I certainly wouldn't compost them, but most other weeds can go in there. I found a dead bird in the garden, so chuck that in. Dead animals are great. We've got a bit of chook manure there. Chook manure is pretty strong, so we won't use too much of that. What else have we got? Oh, this is some just chipper mulch, and that's probably good to go in with that chook manure, because a lot of people say that the chipper mulch and wood chip and sawdust will leach a bit of nitrogen out of the compost or the soil. So for that to go in with that chook manure is probably a good thing, because together they'll break down more efficiently. Just bury that dead bird there. So you can see you can just keep building that up. Kitchen waste, anything that rots. Now, if you were running this as a compost heap at home, remember there's no reason why you can't grow a crop in it while it's filling up as well. Things like potatoes and pumpkins, all you would need to do is just tip a bucket, like I've got a bucket here of couple of buckets of soil out of that top chook pen. Tip them in like that. Plant a pumpkin in there. Just break those clods up. Plant a pumpkin in there. It'll feed off all this as it breaks down, and you can actually grow things while you're using it as a veggie patch at the same time. So I reckon again, if I was doing this in a backyard, I'd probably run them as compost heaps before I turn them into veggie patches. What I'm going to do with this one now, and I've got to go to work in a minute, so it's not going to happen today, but I will. I'm going to go up to the top chook pen and get more of this. Well, I suppose it's almost compost off the floor of the chook pen. We've been running that chook pen now for 10 years, and I've noticed over that time that the soil level has actually raised about 6 to 8 inches, and I'm going to, that's starting to get a bit high now, so I'm going to actually go up and I'll probably take 30 or 40 bucketfuls like this and fill this bed up to probably about that height. Now I'm not going to fill it right to the top because I'm growing potatoes. I'm going to plant the potatoes when they're in at that height. Once they shoot, I'm then going to put mulch around them, and as they keep growing, more mulch. That way you get more out of your potato crop. It's a bit like mounding them up. Most people know that as you grow potatoes, you can actually keep hilling up or raising the bed so that you get more potato crop. So that's what's going to go into this one. Once that potato crop's finished, I'll probably grow things like carrots and onions and things like that that are a little bit slow in the other system. So look, these are a great thing. I reckon anyone's capable of making one. I reckon anyone should have 6 of these in their backyard, even if you're in a flat. Just make them smaller, and you know, grow some veggies for yourself, because it's just awesome.